But the band is back is important, and I discovered how important music was in my life. But I learned some things along the way, and I recap them here for you. Listen, trust, all. Being all in really matters. Fail. Try to fail. That sounds crazy, because that means I'm embarrassed, I'm humiliated, I couldn't possibly get up tomorrow because everybody thinks I'm a jerk, or I'm not smart, or how did I possibly miss that? But failure on the journey is really, really important, and Mike and I are going to talk about that. Get back up. It's so cliche. Get back up. Believe in yourself, believe in others, and ethic. But a couple things to point out here as you kind of read this through. Why matters. Why does something happen matter? Not just, oh yeah, that happened. Why did it happen? Once you dig into the why, we start to discover ourselves, not just the answer to a problem, but we start to discover ourselves. Listen aggressively. I say listening is a contact sport. Right? Most people say, oh, I'm such a good listener. And you have a conversation. I saw you before, right? You were in my last class. They say, oh, I'm such a good listener. I can just bite my tongue for minutes and minutes, and I hear everything they're saying. But they don't recognize that they don't ask questions. How can you actually listen if it's only a one-way conversation? You have to engage. And it is the way we discover, it's the way we unearth possibility that you didn't even know was there until you start asking the questions. The rage to master is that internal, you're all here for a reason. It said the word entrepreneur, so you always have this weird thing about you, just by the way, no one told you that. You have this desire, rage, to figure something out. You think you got it. So here's the deal with entrepreneurship, whether you're a musician or whether you're in business. You will not have a lot of friends. A lot of people are going to think you're crazy. And a lot of times, you're on your own. And somebody reminded me, you're also tired a lot. And it just kind of comes with the job. Because when you're trying to do something that either nobody's done right, according to you, or figured out, you have to have a discipline and a kind of a quiet rage about you to try to figure something out. Otherwise, somebody else will do it. And the last line I don't have to explain, I think you know what that means.
Well, I think I've been a musician my entire life. I've played the bass my entire life. I've never had another job. I'm going to be 65 this year. I was fortunate that my father was a musician, and when I was 11 years old, I knew what I was going to do. When I was 11. From that moment on, of course, going through your teenage years, you start to maybe think that, is this practical? Is this going to work? I never thought of the practicality of it, never once. I didn't go to college. I don't have any formal conservatory training. I went to college for literally a month and a half, and because I knew what I wanted to do, and I was able to get over the fear of jumping into the void, but taking the idea that I want and how I want to express and represent myself for the rest of my life. One day in the middle of class at Queens College, in Queens, in Jamaica.
That's Jamaica.
Jamaica.
Yeah.
I just got up and walked out of school and never came back. And for all intents and purposes, I should not be successful because I did everything you were not supposed to do. Everything. I didn't go to college. I didn't have a trade or anything, a skill to fall back on. What didn't stop me is fear. And I think when we get stuck in making a choice, it's because of that fear that we, like Chris was saying, a fear of failure, a fear of what your family's going to think, a fear of not being able to provide for your family if you want to get married, have children, and live that kind of life. Now that can be extrapolated into any decision that we might make, even in business. If you have You're looking at a problem in business and you have to solve a problem. I'm of the firm belief that more than 90% of the fears that we have about going that extra step and taking a leap, more than 90% of the fears never, ever come to realization. Never. So we're paralyzing ourselves with something that is not even reality. So where does that fear come from? And I have my own theories, the way I've lived my life. I do not adhere to most edicts or the way you're supposed to do something or demagoguery or anything like that. I don't go there. So there's a saying that I always hearken back to whenever I have to make a hard decision in my life, and I've had to make many, many, many of them over the course of my career. And it's a saying that says, "Be bold, and great forces will come to your aid." That was written by the great German writer Goethe. And he wasn't talking necessarily about martial forces, about armies. He was talking about be bold. Go there, do what you do, make a decision. You don't know the answers, but by making the decision to do something, a whole host of variables will come and help you realize that decision. So whenever I'm in fear or I'm equivocating about something, I think about that. He's one of the greatest thinkers of the 20th century. Everybody in literature studies him, and I think that that's a really important lesson.
Discovered in their brand was who they are. They represent everybody. They have a story to tell. We all have a story to tell. And that's part of exploring that creativity, that ability for us to look inside to say, this is who I am. Get on your own path. Get on your own odyssey. Get on your own journey. Use what's inside, because everybody here is creative. You might say, oh, I don't sing. But I guarantee you in less than a minute, we could figure out what you're really, really creative at. Even though you might say, yeah, I'm not creative. I always thought I was much better in math than I was in the creative side. But people are creative in all different ways. So we're going to play a song, Mike and me, for you that I think you know. And we'll start there. Because everybody needs a little music. All right.
Now this will sound silly in the beginning. Just give it a... Is this on? Okay.
So you might know this song, but we figured we'd start here first. How about the jazz version of that? Let's try that one. Hang on one second. Well, now, what song was that? That's Twinkle Twinkle. But what happened? What did we do to that song?
Well, we kind of deconstructed it. We put it in a different frame. We put it in different genres. But the essence of what it was remained the same. And now I think the point of this is to, as we're going to demonstrate here, is to point out that a very, very simple idea, which one might dismiss as trivial, as insubstantial, when looked at in a broader, more open way, can actually develop into something substantial.
Both have a remarkable way of relating to an audience. Both of you.
Thank you.
You both have a remarkable way of
Thank you so
relating
much.
to your audience,
Thank you.
and you need to take this on the road.
Oh, well, I'm used
I mean,
to that.
I've been to a lot of presentations of this kind, but none with the level of connection that I've seen here tonight. None really addressing the fear issue that you really focused on, which is
Yeah.
present throughout this audience, no matter what we're dealing with. So I just congratulate you on that.
What hasn't happened, and I don't predict it will, is that it will eclipse humanity's ability to solve problems at a threshold where the awareness of self and the awareness of others, computers can't determine. Because I don't know you, you've never met me other than today. Let's just do this for fun. Don't say anything, okay? In that 5 seconds, we just made a connection, right? You don't know me. No computer's going to figure that out. Because we now have empathy, right? For just that moment, you cared about me. For just that moment, I cared about you. And I don't mean that I won't 10 seconds from now, but you know what? Like, we, just for a moment, right? That's why music is so powerful, because just in that moment, we cared about each other enough that we trusted each other that we could actually do that. If I would have done that to you an hour and 20 minutes ago, you would have thought I was a freak. Oh yeah, stare at me for 5 seconds while I stare back. You'd be like, get out of here. No computer's going to replace that. The challenge, though, is like, it's always pushing the edge.